Hello and welcome to our next module. This module is going to cover some background information related to the Constitutional Convention. So let's go and hop into it. First, the Constitutional Convention was originally called the Federal Convention. We call it the Constitutional Convention after the fact, based on what we know happened, that we actually produced the Constitution as a result. But this next bullet. The purpose of the convention was to revise the articles. It was never originally intended to produce a new national government. All right. Now we're still going through some background. Some events leading up to the Constitutional Convention were the issues throughout the states. We talked about life under the articles in the previous module, and things weren't looking too good for the home team. So I mean, even early on in the Articles of Confederation, things weren't working too well. So the states were recognizing that as a result. In 1785, Maryland and Virginia were hammering out some issues related to commercial use of the Potomac. And at that time, when they came together, they proposed an idea. Let's go ahead and get a convention together, or get some mechanism to discuss some of our interstate problems, some of our interstate issues. And so think about this. The Battle of Yorktown was 1781. The official end of the Revolutionary War was 1783. So we're only really 2, 3, 4 years into this thing called independence from Britain, and they were already recognizing the system was broken. All right. And so then the next year, they had the Annapolis Convention to address some of these issues. Only 5 states showed up. All right. 5 of 13. Now, out of that Annapolis Convention, they did propose, and it was approved by Congress. Again, this was the Congress under the Articles, to have a convention to revise the Articles. Okay? So, again, the whole purpose of the upcoming convention was to revise. As I said a couple minutes ago, it was never intended to just be an overhaul of the articles, which we know is what happened. Now, one thing we have to understand here is that in the middle of all of this, even though things weren't going too well, society was kind of breaking down a little bit. And if you remember from a previous module, Britain pulled out with the full expectation the colonies would not succeed in independence. That was actually coming to pass. But in the middle of all this, there were 2 things going on. One is, no matter how bad things were or are in any given situation, there are some people who benefit. So if even in recent times, you think about the downturn in the economy with the Great Recession, 08, 09, in those years after that sharp downturn, there were still some people that have done very well in the economy. So there were some people who were doing well under the system of the Articles. The second thing I would say is, just think about this for a second. We are not wired for change. Uh, I do teach classes in the business department as well. And, when I talk about change, that we are wired for the status quo. In some cases, we prefer the known bad instead of the unknown good in many cases. And so, our DNA is to kind of fight, resist the change, hold on to the status quo. I mean, think about this for a second. I'm sure you might have some experience with this, that you might have had a boss back in the day that you just said a prayer every day. Please let this person go somewhere, I don't care where, just away from me. And then you come in the office one day, and lo and behold, your prayers are answered. Okay, this person is moved on. Somebody tells you couldn't believe it. What happens in many, many cases for many, many people? Within 5 minutes, like, oh my goodness, who am I going to get now? So even though you didn't like the situation at work, when your prayers were answered, it's like, oh my goodness, is it going to get worse? So some of that was at play here, just that basic human DNA resistance to change. All right, moving on. Now, just in terms of some of the administration of the Constitution, some general points here. The convention started in May of 1787. Okay, we really are only talking a few years removed from the Revolutionary War. Began with 9 states. All right. Now, when it started in May, it was in Philadelphia. There were a lot of spring rains that prevented the delegates from being able to show up and make it on time. All right. Now, the sessions were closed to the public. Now, I tell you guys, I've been studying and teaching this for years, right? And I remember even when I took this class years ago as an undergraduate, oh man, I'm getting old. I remember going over this very point. I mean, just think about it in today's environment. What if Congress just shut its doors, said no CNN, no CBS News, you can't come in here? Can you imagine? Now, I might be being exaggerating that point a little bit, but still, the sessions were closed to the public. Now, that did give the delegates a little bit of freedom to discuss and debate, without someone looking over their shoulder. But again, it's still amazing to think about that point. The sessions of the convention were closed to the public. Madison secretly kept records. James Madison, who is argued to be the father of the U.S. Constitution, he kept records that they weren't published until after his death some decades later. That's how we have some insights into what actually happened during the convention. The average age of the delegates, 33. Now, in and around all of this with the Constitutional Convention, one thing to let you know is that a lot of people look at the time, and even looking back on it, I kind of count me in with this, really kind of question the legality of this very convention, all right? And it was even to the point where, George Washington, who was a part of it, he was really respected by everyone, all ideologies and things like that. His political allies told him, don't show up, don't show up. We don't want your reputation to be sullied in case this thing blows up when we first get there. And of course, he didn't listen to them. If you get bored one night and can't sleep, just Google some of the stories in and around that. But the point being is that the very mechanism of this convention was considered to be really illegal, illegitimate, whatever word you want to call it. So, but again, we did have the convention. Again, the name of it was originally the Federal Convention, not the Constitutional Convention. And lastly, underscored in bold, the purpose was to revise the articles, revise. With that, that's in this module. As always, you can go back, listen to this again, start, stop as you need to. And with that, we'll pick it up with the next module. Thank you.